Hey BookTube, I'm going to do a book review, and the book I'm reviewing is Falcon of Sparta by Conn Iggulden. It is a historical fiction. I don't do many of them. Here's one. This is not the first book by Conn Iggulden I've read. I've actually read, well, quite a few of his books. And I thoroughly enjoyed them. So here we are. Now, the thing about historical fiction is, I kind of already know how it turns out. You humans are quite a dramatic species. And despite the majority of human historians being Goblin deniers, I'm quite keen on keeping up with your human history. Falcon of Sparta is the story of the 10,000 Greeks. From the looks on your faces, I get the impression not that many of you have heard of the 10,000 Greeks. Google it. Check it out on Wikipedia. Interesting history. Now, I'll give you a little clue. It's about 10,000 Greeks. Yep, clue was in the name. This is a story taking place in ancient Persia, adjacent to ancient Greece. To give it some context, it's a few decades after the stories of the 300 Spartans, which are more commonly known, and a few decades before Alexander the Great's rise. Quite a lot did happen in those intervening years. One of the key things is the Persian Empire remained very strong, even grew. And the Persians' failed invasion of Greece left a bit of bitter blood between the nations. But let's not focus too much on the Greeks. This starts out as the story of two brothers battling, Artaxerxes and Cyrus. Artaxerxes, oldest brother, due to become emperor of the Persian Empire. Cyrus, younger brother, not so much. But Cyrus thinks he'd make a better emperor. So he builds himself an army. A corps of 10,000 Greek mercenaries and some Persian regiments he's convinced to follow him, and marches to battle on his brother. This is potentially all spoilery, but I'm not sure if actual history counts as spoilers. What do you think? Nah. And the first half of this book is all about that. It's about Cyrus building himself an army, marching on his brother, trying to keep it a little bit hush-hush. And Cyrus is actually the main character in this first half of the book. And it all goes fairly well. And you get that big climactic battle between the brothers, except that it's not a climax. It's actually about maybe 45% of the way through the book. And if you know your history, Cyrus lost. He got killed, which in itself, very interesting way of presenting a story. Your main character, gone halfway through the book. And a lot of the other main characters, the senior officers of his army, not doing too well either. And that is actually what I think I liked about this book, is that there was almost a procession of main characters as people die and minor characters get promoted and new minor characters are introduced. it all worked very well in a natural evolution. And that's only taken us up to halfway through the book. The story of the 10,000 Greeks is actually one where, following their loss, they find themselves deep in the Persian Empire, somewhere in modern-day Iran. And 10,000 Greeks, surrounded by the largest armies ever assembled, 50 to 100 times their number, and they have to get back to Greece. March thousands of miles through deserts, mountains, rivers, hounded by an army many times their size. It's kind of a story of desperation and survival, more than great drama. One interesting in itself in a historical context. I do actually recommend checking out a Wikipedia article. But the dramatisation of that story by Conn Iggulden I also thought worked very well. The rapid development of new major characters following the demise of previous major characters was done smoothly. What is a perhaps somewhat anticlimactic end to the tale, I'll let you in on a little secret here. Most of them survive, and that is the great success story of the book and of history. But the delivery of the tale is what it's all about. There are also some little side plots. Socrates is an interesting character in it, probably one of the most interesting characters in it, and didn't really get enough of him. Made me want to learn about the Socrates of history, following my exposure to the Conn Iggulden's dramatisation of him. He didn't actually have a big part in the story of the 10,000 Greeks, but his place as a side character in the development of it, because one of the leaders of the 10,000 Greeks, a chap called Xenophon, was one of Socrates' students, as well as his more famed students like Aristotle. Anyway, that was probably the worst book review ever, but in summary, I enjoyed the book. It's a standalone novel, not too long, interesting character development, some good drama from one major battle, and then a series of smaller skirmishes as they try to escape with their lives. I would recommend reading it. And I would say that reading a bit of history first around the subject, I think, while it may add spoilers to the plot, doesn't take away from the enjoyment of reading about it. There you go. Another book review coming soon. Bye.